Lucas, I'll tell you what it is. It's the first draw off the crack pipe. We owe Teddy Roosevelt a tip of the hat. The North American conservation model has been applied to Southern Africa, and if any two places on the planet, it's pretty evident that hunting actually will save a species. It's those two areas, I met Craig. It's a pretty funny story. Again, I told you he's a hunting hero of mine. Read all his books. I'd be sitting in English class with the Peterson's hunting cracked instead of the textbook. You know what I mean? So, we're walking around the show, and I'm trying to be cool, and I finally see him, and I got weird, like weak in the knees, sort of, like a total bromance, yeah. My wife goes, "Are you okay? You're sweating." I'm like, "I'm going to meet him."
Very much like Phil, I gobbled up everything he ever put out in Peterson's Hunting magazine when I was a kid, and, he was just the coolest kid on the block, and I had a sickness for Africa long before I had ever stepped foot on the continent.
Welcome to the RNA Outdoors podcast, fueled by Ripcord Arrow Rest and First Light Hunting Apparel. At RNA, we are public land DIY conservationists that love to share our passion for the outdoors. So join us and our team as we interview professionals in the industry to share insight knowledge that helps make hunters and anglers more successful. Hey listeners, subscribers, and fellow outdoorsmen and women. This is your host, Lucas Paw, and I'm excited to tell you about some of the sponsors that continue to help make this podcast not only happen, but grow and thrive in this digital world of audio content. This podcast is brought to you by Ripcord Arrow Rest, the bow hunter's #1 fall-away rest on the market. Ripcord is known for 100% full-time arrow containment and their patented drop-dead brake system that eliminates launcher bounce back. Best of all, Ripcord is backed by their rock-solid guarantee. If the original owner has a part break for any reason, it will be repaired or replaced at no charge. And did I mention? Ripcord is located in southwest Montana, where all their products are made with pride in America. Check them out at ripcordarrowrest.com and on their social media feeds. This podcast is brought to you by First Light Clothing and Hunting Apparel. Born in the Rockies in central Idaho, First Light's mission is to create simple, yet proven, versatile gear that provides comfort and performance in any situation while working to promote the pursuit of ethical hunting and stewardship. I recently joined the First Light Pro Staff team and have continued to be impressed year after year in their innovations in engineering of merino wool fabrics. 10 years ago, they started putting out wool fabrics with camo patterns, and immediately this changed the game. Since then, they offer multiple layering systems and kits in various proprietary patterns and continue to raise the bar with their competition. Find them online at firstlight.com or under their social media feeds. Go farther, stay longer. This is the next coolest thing next to a helicopter.
Yeah. 1, 2.
Charlie Bravo.
Rocking and rolling in another day.
If you've been to
paradise.
Montana, you've been to the Testicle Festival, so in Rock Creek. Jay's probably
Testicle Festival. Phil looks like a testicle.
I am a testicle. One giant testicle.
Man, I'm sorry, Phil.
It happens. It's
at least
okay.
you're shaved. That's a good thing.
That's right.
At least you got one.
One working one. I told my dad, no matter how big it is, it goes off every time.
Bang. We don't have any drinks. If we had drinks, it would go a little longer.
And it would be a hell of a lot funnier.
Garçon.
Someone said something about bourbon and cigars. Maybe we're a little too early for that.
You had me at bourbon.
No, you had me at cigars.
All All right, welcome, folks, to the R&A Outdoors podcast. I'm your host, Lucas Paw, coming to you from the Dallas Safari Club on day 2 here in Dallas. It's been a great show, first trade show of the year, and excited to be here. We were here on Wednesday night for Craig's Weatherby Award, which was very special to be a part of that, not only knowing Craig, but also knowing the accomplishments that he's done in his life, and to be there and to share that with him was pretty fantastic. So in addition to that, my sidekick over there, Mr. Jason Quick, is on the hook as well. Most of you know him or have heard him or say, man, I wish he'd never get on another podcast again. But most of the feedback I get is pretty positive.
Keeps dragging me along everywhere we go.
But just kind of continuing on the Weatherby Award, we were fortunate to be at the table there with Craig and a couple folks that we met along the way at the table. Both Phil and Jay, we've kind of got to know them throughout the weekend. And when I told them we did a podcast, both of them kind of piqued their interest a little bit. Like, hey, I like podcasts.
Podcasts are cool.
Can we do a podcast? Like,
We're
of
listeners.
course we can. So today we've been able to catch up with them. All of us have had a pretty busy schedule, but we were able to sit down and catch up with both Jay and Phil here in Dallas. And just want to welcome you guys to the R&A Outdoors podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to leave the floor open. Maybe we'll start, Phil, with you and just kind of give us a little bio, kind of what you do in the outdoors in terms of your background and how you got here today.
I'm a relatively new gun writer. Kind of stumbled into the process. We opened up a small ammunition company, and Gun Digest came to me and asked me to write a book, and I was kind of like with royalties and stuff, and they're like, yeah. I said, yeah, I'm open. I can do that. So one thing led to another, and now it's kind of branching off into some TV shows. I've got 4 books under my belt and pretty steady habit of writing, so it's kind of cool. Craig, speaking of Craig has been instrumental in my career. He's been a very, very nice, generous person, given me some opportunities. I wrote a chapter from one of his books. And, he was my hunting hero from back in my high school days. Back in the 80s, I was reading his stuff going, one day I'd love to do that. And lo and behold, we're all sitting at the Weatherby Award
I know.
at Craig's table.
Oh, that
it
was awesome.
What a fantastic opportunity. And, for me, it's a bit of a kid in a candy store kind of thing. Lucas, we're here at the DSC show. It's the greatest hunting show on earth, hands down. It's so laid back. PH is like Mr. Leyendecker here, and the who's who of the industry. You get to sit down, share a drink, have a conversation.
Smoke a cigar.
Smoke a cigar, have a bourbon or gin and tonic, whatever suits your fancy. But really, it's a little star-studded for me. I'm walking around shaking hands with people who have been my idols for years. So
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm glad to be here. It's a dream come true for me.
No, and I think it's cool because I'm hearing part of your story, and I'm hearing gun writer. I'm hearing what Craig said 3 nights ago. I'm just a gun writer, right? That's all I ever was a gun writer. I mean, obviously, look what he's done in his pedigree, but that's where he started.
Absolutely.
Right? And look at what he's helped you, and he's helped all of us to some extent, right, to the outdoors. I think
it's one thing I want to say about this industry. It's very tight-knit. I've heard the word inbred be applied to it, but it's a small family.
Yeah.
And
family.
But it is a family, and everybody treats each other very, very well.
Yeah,
and
there's no doubt.
When you get to be a part of something like that, you got to kind of look upward and count your blessings. And, pay homage to the universe for affording you that opportunity, because I know there's a lot of folks listening who would give their eye teeth to be, number one, at the show, but just number 2, to be a part of something this big. You know, it's a fantastic thing, and I know hunting's the common thread, but from gun makers to professional hunters to the animals themselves, it's a celebration here, so it's really, really cool.
It's all about the animals at the end of the day.
It is.
Speaking of celebrities and people walking by, Corey Knowlton just walks by, and of course he doesn't know us from Adam, but
Corey.
Yeah. Okay, he does know some people from Adam. Oh, that's good. I like that. We were talking to him the other night with Jim Shockey, and it was pretty.
Here, let me
pretty
say
fun.
hi real quick.
Okay.
I don't mean to interrupt y'all's meeting, but I just really am proud this man in his belt buckle.
Well,
You like the JHL, don't you?
we were mentioning about celebrities walking by and stuff like that, so I just threw you under the bus.
I'm not really a celebrity, but I played one on TV.
I watched you play one on TV, and you did a fantastic job of it, might I say.
I'm Corey.
Lucas, Phil Massaro, Corey, nice to meet you.
Has nothing to do with the whiskey.
Well, I haven't drank it yet.
Well, that's impressive.
So that's how DSC rolls. People just stroll on by. It's
Happy New Year.
It's that kind of thing, you know. You meet
it's-
the who's who of the industry.
And that's what I think is so neat about it is you see these guys on TV, you read about them in magazines, you know, social media, you see them on YouTube, and then you're rubbing shoulders with them, you know, in one of the safari booths. I mean, and they're just normal people.
And Lucas,
right?
at the end of the day, we all put our pants on one leg at a time, and you know, have the same trials and tribulations as everybody else. You know, but we're afforded an opportunity to be a part of something that's amazing, just a wonderful kind of thing. You know,
Yep.
Jay and I just sat down, picked out dates for Botswana, so we're going to hunt Botswana this August, first week of August. So
Okay. Now you just can't just leave us
Yeah.
hanging with oh yeah, by the way, we're just gonna go to Botswana, you know.
So this may
That's what we do.
segue. This could probably segue into Mr. Leyendecker and maybe introducing himself and telling us about this little adventure to Botswana.
Yeah, well,
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then we'll get into the whacking and stacking side of things.
I originally, since I got out of college and while I was in college, I've been in hunting in Africa since actually 1999. So I've been floating around Africa since 99 all the way, we're in 2018 now. So nearly 20 years of safaris I've been doing. Later on got my professional hunter's license in Botswana and I did my apprenticeship under Terry Palmer and Johan Collitz and worked with them for years after that. Then as Botswana closed, I came back to Texas. I continued with my hunting business and ranch management. So I started helping landowners achieve their goals, on different ranches across southern Texas. And it then morphed into ranch sales, which is what I'm doing now. And I work for Hall & Hall Ranch Real Estate. And we
You sell small little properties.
Little
is what
bitty
I-
ones.
Yeah, 1 bedroom on top of
10
a mountain
acres.
that comes with the whole lake and everything.
Yeah,
those small little places.
Yeah, that's us. I mean, our biggest deal we just recently signed up was T. Boone Pickens Ranch in Pampa, Texas. So that's been a pretty exciting deal. Yeah.
undoubtedly.
Yeah.
But-
Let me guess. How many acres?
That is about 67,000 acres.
Yeah, just little place.
The house is 33,000 square feet. So.
Only 33,000 people. Did everybody hear that? Not 100, 33,000.
I mean,
That's-
you can almost an acre.
Yeah, it was three-quarters of an acre. Yeah.
So he just bought the White House, essentially, maybe even bigger than that.
no, it's bigger than the White House. I was there. Trust me on that one.
Comes with a GPS, so you can find your way to the back bedroom.
That's
Yeah.
exactly
Haven't
right.
been
They're
here
still
before.
discovering things that they put in.
Phil, I think your wife and I had a conversation about that. She's like, yeah, press the intercom and then wonder, can anybody hear me? Can anybody hear me? Help, I'm lost. I don't even know where I'm at.
There's been a family living in the South Wing that I didn't even know was there.
Who are these
Who are
people?
y'all? Yeah, exactly
Feeding
right.
them, too.
So so that's what I'm doing now. My heart has always been in hunting and in Africa and much like everybody in this convention, so I'm sticking with it. I'm still maintaining my relationships and friendships abroad and also with the clients that I had in the past,
That's awesome.
And now Phil has wanted to hunt in Botswana for years, and so we finally sat down and
Made it happen.
punched out some dates, and we're gonna try to track down a big eland with little Bushman trackers.
It's
So-
going to be fantastic. Botswana's closed, the classic Okavango Delta blocks and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. It
That's depressing.
unfortunately
It is very
closed,
depressing.
and it had a definite impingement on their economy.
Sure.
But private land hunting is still available. So Botswana is something I wanted to put a check in the box for a number of years now. I've been fortunate enough to hunt 5 different countries around southern and eastern Africa, and Botswana is definitely something I want to go see.
Yeah.
And I love to hunt eland. They are one of my favorites.
They are the tastiest.
Undoubtedly.
In my opinion.
My favorite meat.
You want to know what mine is? It's eland. It's close, tie between eland and zebra.
Zebra's good.
Yeah, I love
had
zebra.
in South Africa. It was
I
delicious.
love zebra. Yeah, I'll take a zebra steak any day of the week.
He's going on his.
I'm going in July, so I can't speak to any of this.
He's going on his
I'm
first
going on my
safari in
first.
July.
Fantastic.
And I told him,
Yeah.
I said, here's the goal. You got to talk somebody in the group to shooting one.
Why don't you shoot one?
Yeah.
That's
Why
what I was.
Why talk somebody else into it when you can do
why
it
would
yourself?
Why wouldn't you?
Looks like I might be shooting
Come on,
one.
Jay.
No,
Come
it's-
on, baby.
no,
I like how
Let me
you
tell
work.
you something. Eland is by far, in my opinion, the best hunt for plains game animal on the continent.
Yeah.
It's just, the way you hunt them, track them, go after them, and, it's
And
just
when they decide to
spectacular.
go,
They decide to go.
That's
exactly right.
They'll be in the next zip code.
And I don't know if you've ever, been around a lot. I don't think you've ever been around a lot of eland. Or
No, I've never hunted in Africa before. So
well,
this is my
This
first.
he's a
yeah,
newbie.
like what did Craig say at the Weatherby Award that he went to get it out of his system on
I'm
his first
going
safari?
my first time. That's
Yeah.
all I'm doing. I'm only going to do it once.
Yeah,
and I'm
right,
done,
right.
right?
125 times later.
Yeah.
Right?
Lucas, I'll
And
tell you
that's-
what it is. It's the first draw off the crack pipe. You're going to be an addict from that day forward. I
Him
promise
and
you
I had
that.
this conversation last night. I looked at Jason. I said, he's been 6 or 8 times, and I
Yeah.
said, is this like my rite of passage to my next passion? Because
oh, undoubtedly.
I love
No
hunting the
question.
western states. I mean, that's been my thing. I'm going to Alaska this year too, but I've never been to Africa. I've been to South America. I've been to New Zealand, but this is
Nice.
a whole new experience
it
for
is.
me, and I'm looking forward to it.
You'll be planning the next couple of decades of your life.
He kind of did it backwards because I tell everybody kind of like what you said. You go to Africa, you get the taste, and then it's like time and time again. And then after you've done that a few times, I'm like, okay, well maybe you throw in New Zealand, then maybe you throw in Argentina. But
you always
he kind
go
of
back
went
to
backwards.
Africa.
But you always look back
You do.
to
You do.
Africa.
Yeah.
You'll be on the plane flight home going, all right, so if I sell that, I can get back in a year.
Now, I know I needed to shoot that. That was
Right.
$4,000. So now I got
Yeah,
to
exactly.
start running the numbers in their
Exactly.
head.
You start seeing buffalo in your dreams, and it's...
It's awesome.
My buddy Graham Williams from Australia says, buffalo hunting is a disease with no cure, only treatment.
A little piece of lead about that big,
Yeah,
right?
exactly
Only
right.
treatment. You'll never actually get over the addiction. But it's such a special place. Now, where are you going for your
Eland
first?
Safari, so I'll be Limpopo.
One
on
of
the-
Craig's
One of Craig's
recommendations.
outfitters.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
then you know you're going
So
to the
when
right
you
place.
guys talk about eland, we were talking about it last night. They used to grow elands, and they used to house them there. So
That was actually
eland
the
is one of
first
their-
animal. That was
they
the first
introduced.
animal they introduced on the property, like in the '60s.
Oh, really?
Cool.
So actually, they've never really overshot them. And in fact, my friend Alex told me that his dad, for the longest time, even after they opened up hunting, he's like, "No, you can't shoot those.
Leave them be. Let them breed."
And he goes, now we have so many that he goes, they
Yeah.
just eat us out of house and home.
Sure do.
Yeah.
And they'll show up in groups of 20 and 30.
Yeah.
And he goes, and every once in a while, one will show up and you're like, it'll come on a trail cam. You're like, where did this thing come from?
He wasn't
He's
here
like,
last year.
He hasn't. We've never seen him before, and all of a sudden you're just like, whoa! And so I told him the same thing. I said, somebody's got to shoot one. If nothing else, you got to talk somebody into shooting one so
Yeah.
you can eat it.
Eat it, right.
That's the only important thing.
Remember that elk tenderloin they had here the other night
Yes.
at the Weatherby
Yeah.
Award? It beats that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's hard to beat.
It is
I'm
hard to beat,
telling
but
you.
it beats
That was
it.
excellent.
Yeah.
It was fantastic, but no. The whole South African game breeding thing is a wonderful conservation message. You look at a place that was predominantly, I won't say devoid of life, but there was, sheep farms, goat farms, cattle
Correct.
farms.
Correct.
But when they realized that the game thrived better than the domesticated animals did, it speaks for itself. Our North American
it's a success
conservation
for them.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Oh, it's amazing.
And it goes back to if it pays, it stays, and that's
Absolutely.
and that's what happened. The game had more value than the cattle and the sheep
Absolutely.
and whatnot. So then people started growing and raising them essentially, and now look where
Yeah.
they are now.
And even with the rhino problem we're having with the rampant poaching,
Right.
had it not been for South Africa's breeding system, it would have happened
they
decades
would've-
before.
they'd probably be
would've-
gone.
They would be gone.
Actually, I
Yeah.
agree with Jay. They would have been gone.
So to all you South Africans listening, cheers and thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and you think about stuff that we're dealing with now just in the western states. You know, I mean, you look at back in the populations when there was, you know, like 10 tule elk. I look back and there was 5 tule elk left in the state of California.
That's right.
Now we're at populations that, I mean, they're going to start doing damage based on the population numbers if they don't start allowing hunters to shoot more of these elk.
Right.
But that's another success that's, you know, close to us. Jason shot a tule. I've been trying for 13 years now to try to draw one, and hopefully in my lifetime. But there's so many of those little success stories out there where, you know, you had sheep, as an example, you had elk where they were at record low numbers, and by people pulling together and conservation efforts, we've been able to...
Hunters' dollars made that all happen.
We've been able to conserve these animals, and they're thriving now. You know,
we owe Teddy Roosevelt a tip of the hat. You know what I mean? He was it started in New York with the deer. You know, I in the 1860s, there were no deer seasons. People shot them year-round.
Right.
I knew older hunters that were born in the teens and 20s who they told me if you saw a deer track in New York, it was, you know, noteworthy because there just were no deer. You know, and look, the North American conservation model has been applied to Southern Africa, and if any two places on the planet, it's, you know, pretty evident that hunting actually will save a species.
Yeah.
It's those two
Those are
areas.
examples,
you know,
yeah.
You know, look at the white-tailed deer, look at the buffalo, look at the antelope, you know, and then across Southern Africa, you know, you've got even the elephants. You know, you know, Kenya, when Kenya closed, it decimated the game. You know, there's no one to keep things in check.
Once again, if it pays, it stays.
pays, it
If
stays.
it's not, they're going to wipe it out just so they can protect their stuff.
You know, one analogy I always use is if you were to get a tiger, right, in India, and you have this tiger and you have this goat herder, and the tiger kills a goat, right? You can't hunt the tiger, though.
Yeah.
But the goat is worth $10. Which one is worth more, the tiger you can't hunt and can't gain an income from, or the $10 goat, and especially to that little goat herder?
Sure.
So
It's his world.
It's his world. You know, so how can you not see the
Things
the
need
way
to
it
be
works,
balanced,
you know?
and you know we know that, and obviously the big problem is human population.
Correct.
You know, it's exploding.
Correct.
You know, and especially across Africa, that's one of the biggest you know, rising population areas in the world. So you know, the humans aren't going to volunteer to, you know, cram themselves in little tiny cities, and they're, you know, the population sprawl goes across the countryside, and the elephant migratory routes are interrupted.
Change,
and,
right.
Yeah, you know, so it has a definite effect. But you know, through hunting, I mean, look at the amount of land we've conserved.
No.
Well, yeah.
You know,
well, and that's been a topic of a conversation on the podcast a couple different times.
public
is
land privatization.
Public land privatization and the scariness of, you know, what happens if the federal government gives all the lands to the local state, and then the state goes, well, wait a second, we could sell this big chunk of property to a bazillionaire, and then he'll pay us taxes on it every
Right.
year instead of us having to manage it every year. But then it goes back to the whole, you know, we are American citizens.
And it's ours.
It's ours
As a
to
populace, yes.
utilize
Yeah.
as a populace and have that experience. So I once again, another thing that we can't fix in life.
I'm from upstate New York, and while it's not known for a great deer state, you know what I mean? Nobody's like, I want to go hunt New York. I can shoot that little... Yeah, but one of the great things we do have, thanks again to Mr. Roosevelt, we've got like the Adirondack Park, we've got the Catskill Park. You can buy an over-the-counter hunting license and take your kid hunting. The Adirondack Park, I think, is 6 million acres.
Nice.
You can get plenty lost there.
But we have actually people die from getting
Sure.
lost every year
Yeah.
from the elements. But what, you know,
Yeah.
the point is the opportunity's there.
It's there, yeah.
And that's fantastic. You know, not everybody's going to shoot 150 or 160 inch deer. You know, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you want to go out and take a kid deer hunting, you can.
Yeah.
And we talk about that for California, you know, I mean, everybody's like, oh, back to that. Oh, man, I don't want to go to California. But, you know, I mean, we have everything in California. It's pretty silly that we have all 3 species. Well, we have 3 species of elk. I mean, we have more bears than you could shake a stick at.
More
It's on the
mountain
flag.
We have more mountain
Mountain
lion,
lion
but
than-
we can't talk about that
Yeah.
because that'll just make me pissed off. So,
Thanks to our deer populations
but
are
you know, I mean,
dying.
we have mule deer and we have
Desert
blacktail,
bighorn.
and we have the.
California
I mean,
desert
sheep.
bighorn.
you
Yeah.
name
Yeah.
it. It's
Sure.
it's
wild
an
pigs.
awesome.
I mean, there's
pigs
lots of great
And
wild
you
game.
even,
rich
you even
state.
have that place out there that has free-range sambar.
Yeah,
Yes.
we have sambar
Yeah.
deer.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's actually right across from where we're at.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Craig
not far.
actually went out there and was able. That was private land where he was able to take
Right.
that, but he
But
took a really beautiful one.
It's actually also one of the best herds in the world, if I'm not mistaken, is per trophy quality.
Yeah, trophy
Yeah.
quality there. I mean, I don't know if you saw the episode where Craig took his, but his was phenomenal.
Beautiful. They're beautiful animals.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
speaking of Craig, I mean, that's kind of how all of us met, was a common bond through, this weekend, as Craig receiving the Weatherby Award this weekend. But, reflecting back on all of our relationships, because I think he touches all of us differently, obviously, based on, what he's done over his career. But is there any examples or experiences or things in your guys' mind that just, I guess take you back to that time or really resonated with you about Craig? Again, it could be hunting, it could be writing, it could be anything that just kind of says, man, I remember that time about Craig.
I met Craig. It's a pretty funny story. Again, I told you, he's a hunting hero of mine, read all his books. I'd be sitting in English class with the Peterson's hunting cracked instead of the textbook. You know what I mean?
I think that was all of us.
Watching him with a 416 running and killing a moose or whatever it was.
Don't let my kids hear it.
Right. So he came to the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania outdoor show, the great, I think it's the Eastern Outdoor, whatever it was. And my wife had bought me tickets for Christmas. She's like, yeah, we're going to go to Harrisburg, a couple of great craft breweries, and that Boddington guy you like is going to be there. I was like, what? What? He's going to be there? So, we're walking around the show, and I'm trying to be cool, and I finally see him, and I got weird, like weak in the knees, sort of, like a total bromance. Yeah. My wife goes, are you okay? You're sweating. I'm like, I'm going to meet him. I'm going to meet him. So we grabbed a couple of drinks and walked up to the booth, and I think I bought a book or a video, and he was signing it. We got chit-chatting about the 318 Wesley Richards, and, that was another thing he had me do, and I won't say had me do, but inspired me to do. But we're just talking, and Donna, his wife, said, where'd you get the drinks? And I went, well, come on, we'll go get one. And we kind of hijacked Donna from the booth, and Craig's going, who are these people, and why are they taking my wife? So, his wife, Donna, and my wife, Susie, they hit it off, and we've just all become friends. Like I said, Craig has made many introductions in the industry to me, for different writing assignments.
Sure.
Did a chapter for his own book, which I was absolutely honored to do. But, that's his nature. He's a giver.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
He's a humble man, but he is. He's a giver, and that's a quality that's very, very admirable. You know what I mean? Especially in an industry where, let's face it, we're all kind of ego-driven. You know what I mean? We're big, chest-thumping hunter.
Personalities, big guy.
Absolutely, and you put that many of them in a room, and you'd think there'd be sparks, but there wasn't. It was a really cool feeling to see everybody so happy for him to win that award.
Yeah, no question.
And it's like Jason and I went over and talked to Jim Shockey towards the end of the evening, and Jason's met him before. I hadn't, but I wanted to meet him. And
bromance thing.
Absolutely.
His whole thing was this is overdue. That's basically what he said.
Yeah.
He goes, this. Yeah. I mean,
it was long overdue.
This is long overdue. He goes, he was well deserving of it. And I mean, again, another guy who's got a lot of pedigree in this industry. Saying that about Craig, and then you see these 4-star generals, and calling him colonel. There. I mean, that kind of stuff. You can't replace that kind of stuff, right? I mean, and think about everything Craig took from the military and instilling in people's lives, and how he runs his life is probably very militant based, which is, it teaches you that at that age, though.
I'm probably doing 8 to 10 articles a month, and some people look at me and go, how can you do that? I said, guys, that's nothing. Boddington throws articles out there like a tennis ball thrower. I mean, think about it. He's a Marine Corps colonel.
Yeah.
And just on the side, kind of became the guy we all know. He's a machine.
Yeah. That is truly amazing.
I'll tell you one thing that I really liked about his speech was, at the very end of it, he gave all the credit to Roy Weatherby.
Yeah,
I mean, didn't even take it for himself.
No.
He was up there to take it all for himself.
He should have been the focal point.
It was all about him, and then he went on and talked about Roy Weatherby. I thought that was fantastic. So it's such a selfless act.
Yeah.
And that's just his genetic makeup.
That's how he is. And he's wired that way.
Yeah.
I mean, even as much as, when he goes out and takes all these exotic animals, he's always talking about everybody else or everything else, right? He always puts everyone else in front of him, and that's just that's how he is.
Well, a great testament when they had the little auction there in the middle of the show, or at the end of the show. Craig's latest book, what is it, Cape to Kazarine, I think it's called?
Yeah.
He had autographed the book, and I think he got all the living Weatherby Award recipients to sign the book as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the auction price was, $975. It was under $1,000, whatever it was.
$975
value.
That book sold for $30,000. That tells you how the industry feels about the man.
You got stuff up there that's fair market value, $20,000 for this, hunt over in Africa and that sell them for $6,000.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Then you
Everything's
get
under
this book, you know, the list price of $975, and it does that. That to me was definitely a highlight of that evening,
So-
just to see him, you know, standing
He
up.
deserves
And,
it.
Yeah, that
just
was
deserves
that
it.
was
That
that was incredible.
That was one of those moments when that book came up. I thought, you know what?
I may be able to
I
win
may
this
be
one.
able to buy this. And I was
may
thinking,
be
you know
one thing
what?
I'll walk away with.
This would be cool.
Yeah.
And I know, you know, I probably asked Craig to give me one, but
Yeah.
I was thinking, you know, I might get serious about this. And so I was just kind of being coy, sitting there. You know, I was sitting next to Phil. I was sitting next to your wife. and I'm being-
Holding your little paddle ready
no,
to go.
I didn't get the paddle out. I was, you know,
It would have been covered in wine.
That's
but
right.
Yes, he would have
yeah,
had a paddle.
well, that's another story, Phil.
That's for another podcast.
So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, and you know, it kind of stalled. You got 500, 600, and then it kind of floundered a little bit, and then it was like 700. I thought, okay,
Here it comes. Here
we go. I'm thinking about it, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, I got 1,000. I thought, oh well, okay, cheap me, I'm out. You know, Then all of a sudden it was just what? It was 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
Get to 17.5, and the auctioneer says, Wyatt said, hey, come on, just give 20,000 and chase him away. Okay, I'll do 20,000.
It was jumping in
then
huge
Then
increments.
the
Yeah.
other couple was like, well, he's like, well, it's 22.5 to you, and they're like, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did that just happen? We jumped from 17.5 to 20 to 22.5, and then when they got to like 38, he's like, well, just give us
28,
30
yeah.
and let's
Yeah.
chase.
I think the four of us
Let's
started
chase.
yelling and hollering whenever it hit like 17.5, you know?
Yeah.
Come on, get it.
It was
incredible.
just
Yeah, it was great.
off the chart. Funny thing, my nephew, who's a Marine, just tried to call me. So,
Well, that's the
but-
thing about the
Psychic.
power in a room. You know, when you get people together for a cause like that. I mean, that's something that you can't really put a number on that, right?
Well,
I
you
mean,
know-
that experience to see that happen, and for him, I mean, obviously, someone to hold a book that's got all the current living Weatherby Award
absolutely.
winners. That's
pretty
and
cool.
That doesn't have a price tag, but to see that happen was incredible.
You know, it's funny. You talked about, hunting being the common thread. It's a book. It's a book. It's not the Gutenberg Bible.
Yeah.
It's just a book. But that, we all hunt the same animals. We all put on the same green safari clothes.
Yep.
And some rifles are of better pedigree than others, but they all go bang and shoot the same bullet.
Exactly.
But it's the family feel of the safari industry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
the beautiful thing about it. I got to see, guys like Mark Haldane, who I've hunted with before, and other PHs I've hunted with in the past. And it brings you right back to that. Remember that time, you tripped and you broke your face and whatever, you got the thorn in your butt or whatever the story is.
Yeah.
It brings those memories right back. And that's
Yeah.
really what it's about.
Yeah.
It's making those experiences, and poor Mr. Leyendecker here has to put up with me for 7 days of his life.
Yeah, I'm going straight to heaven.
Yes,
I
you
may
have
even
earned,
get sainted after that.
you have earned your position.
Well, speaking of that, Jake, tell us your beginning story with Craig, or some very memorable experience.
Well, very much like Phil, I gobbled up everything he ever put out in Peterson's Hunting magazine when I was a kid, and I mean, he was just the coolest kid on the block, and I had a sickness for Africa long before I had ever stepped foot on the continent myself. My uncle had hunted extensively in Africa in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and so listening to his stories and all that, and then you got Craig, who is like the guy for Africa, and you're reading all about it.
You're getting waved at, by the way, just so you know. Cute
I
blonde.
have no idea who that
You
is.
have no idea. Hi, ladies. Nice to
I
meet
think-
y'all.
I think she's.
Watch out
Watch
for
the
that
chair. It'll get you every time.
It's after Lucas
We're
over
on a
here.
podcast, not recording.
This wasn't a stop sign. That looked really bad.
Yeah,
Lucas,
it's all about Lucas.
you want to say pause now for a moment?
this is
It's
much
all-
more
This
important to
could
me.
be all about Lucas. It could be.
No question. Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, just growing up reading about him, and I had, like I said, I had that sickness for Africa and
Yeah.
dangerous game, and so eventually, fast forward, about 15 years, right? I'm apprenticing in Botswana in an area called Kukama, which was one of our best elephant hunting blocks at the time. It's right near the Hoangi National Park on the Zimbabwean side. And I'll never forget, I was in the office, and we're getting ready for the safari in Kukama. And I didn't know who it was or any of that. And Johan says, "Well, you're on the Boddington Safari, so get your stuff ready." I about had a heart attack. Okay, I thought
You got a manicure.
Yeah,
I said, "Oh, yeah."
Nothing better go wrong on this trip, buddy.
Yeah, no, and here's a titan, of the hunting industry, and somebody I looked up to for years and years and years. So anyway, we I think Craig was in Zim at the time, so they drove across, if I remember correctly, and anyway, and that's where I met he and Donna, was in Kukama that season, and still have pictures of it. And well, we went on and hunted and ended up connecting on a 70-pound plus bull on that safari. So I have to say that was the only time I've hunted with him. I've spent a lot of time with him in and out and shows and whatnot and BSing and all that, but
That's a trial by fire, though. To know you got Craig Boddington coming in for an elephant safari.
And by the way, don't screw it up.
The standard is just elevated just a little bit.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and it was just like,
Because if you screw it up, it's going to be written about. Just so you know.
Just so you know.
And maybe videotaped also.
And also, but Johan, in his own regard, is very much a legend of hunting.
Yes, very true.
So I was, here I am, this kid from South Texas who just wanted to grow up to be a professional hunter, and with enough dreaming and hard work and all that, I'm sitting here, and there's Craig Boddington, and here's Johan Collins, who are my two.
Somebody pinch me.
Yeah, I was, oh my God. And then, when the way this story ends up happening is we all end up back in Mountain, Botswana, right? And we're all having dinner at Johan's house, and it ends up being me, Johan, Craig, Joe Coogan, who is another big outdoor rider, right?
No Joe.
Joe Coogan, who was my uncle's professional hunter in Botswana in the
how
80s.
cool. How cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty neat. So I got to hear stories about my uncle via Joe. And,
Fantastic.
And I heard about Joe through my uncle, right? And Harry Selby.
Stop
Stop it.
So,
Really?
So I'm just sitting there, looking at this table I'm sitting at, and just can't believe.
How did I get here?
Yeah. And
I'm not drooling on myself, am I?
Not at all. And Joe was Selby's apprentice.
Right.
Okay, so they get on to start telling stories, and Selby talking about his apprenticeship and when you hunted under Philip Percival and
Who hunted with Theodore Roosevelt in 1909?
exactly
Oh, my
right.
God.
Think about how far back that goes.
How about that goes? Yeah. So you're sitting here and listening to these stories, and I was just
Do you still have the napkin from dinner?
yeah, pretty much. I still wear the shirt.
It's in a shadow box.
That's when you want to be just a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, no,
I don't even want to be visible. I just want to sit and hear the history and
Actually,
the
we want
conversations.
to turn the podcast on so we could actually record it all to play it back in the future.
Incredible.
Wow.
What a cool story, though.
No, yeah, I mean how it all ended up,
Yeah.
And like I said, here I was just this kid with the dream.
It's funny how the world works
no,
sometimes.
it's one thing I always say is that if you want anything bad enough, you'll find a way to get it.
Yeah.
You will. Yeah, there's no doubt.
Well,
It's like
Jay,
people that want to go sheep hunting. They're like,
That's
I'll
exactly
never be
right.
able to afford to do it. I said,
Yeah.
how much money
That's
do you
it.
spend in Starbucks a week?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly
Times
right.
that in about 2 years, you just paid for your adult
You
sheep
did.
hunt, right?
That's exactly right.
So it's like people do say that, but when you put it in perspective,
Yeah.
it's doable. I
and-
keep telling him that. I said, I'm going to shoot a doll next year is my plan, and I'm trying to get him to go with me.
Yeah, and what's funny
Deep
is
breath, deep breath. There's so much
they
stuff to
say
kill.
that while we're up there taking a picture with Craig at the podium and his awards there, and I grabbed it and I said, well, I guess this may be the only one I ever hold. And he says, never say never, kid. If you want it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's what he told me.
Duplicates don't count, though.
Duplicates don't count, so we all better
That's right.
remember that one, right? But yeah, I thought, well, I just went against everything I believe in. Said something I totally don't believe in.
Yeah.
And
And it can seem, insurmountable at certain particular points in time. But again,
Correct.
as a young man, I highly doubted you'd ever be one of the few American African PHs, sitting at a table
Right.
with Harry Selby.
right.
Yeah.
The Horn of the Hunter is one of those books I read the ink off the pages.
My Horn of the Hunter signed by him.
I don't even like you right now.
Yeah.
Actually, if we could get invited over for dinner, we could swap ours for his, and he wouldn't know for years.
No.
until he listened to the podcast.
You would have to scratch out. You would have to scratch out Jay.
Right.
No.
Well, it says
Hey.
"Welcome to the profession." That's where.
Well, okay,
that was
maybe
like-
I don't know. I'm a Jay. I mean, everybody calls me Jay. I mean,
What was that movie with Catherine Zeta-Jones where she had to do the yoga moves to get around the laser beams? That's how he's got that thing protected.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's in a humidified room with no UV.
you want a
is
470
exactly right.
side by side? It's hanging
Take
on the
it.
wall. But this
Yeah,
book has got laser beams across
The
it.
good old pull the door with a 470 at the other end of it on a string trick, you know.
Yeah,
Batman.
the Home Alone thing, the tar and the
Exactly.
feathers.
Yeah.
You got it.
That's
You got
cool.
it. That's a fantastic.
Wow, that's amazing, dude.
My little quick story, you know, Craig lives in the town where Jason and I live. So, you know, we see him at the coffee shop. We have lunch with him. I hike with him occasionally when he's training for his next, you know, goat hunt or whatever. But I was at work one day, and Jason's my neighbor. So, you know, Jason calls me. And
I texted
he
you
texts me
first.
first, and he goes, call me. So I don't call him back. And then he calls me, leaves a message, and he says, hey, I just spent $800 of your money. So, of course, immediately I walked away out of the meeting I was at, and I call him, right?
How'd you do that?
Amazing how he actually calls when you actually tell him you're spending his money.
So I said, what are you doing? He goes, well, Craig's doing a sale. He's going on a hunt, and he's selling some of his rifles.
Oh,
and I
wow.
got you, and I'm left-handed. So he goes, he's got a Christensen Arms 22-250 Model 700 for sale. And I said, I bought it for you because it's left-handed. So I was like, really? Okay. He's like, meet me here at 4 o'clock at Rigby Firearms, and we're going to do the transfer. So I went down there. And,
now, you
and
didn't add the part where I said, and if you don't want it, and I'm not left-handed, I will buy it.
I left that part out.
But it was there wasn't I knew when Craig said he was going to sell it, I thought of him, and I just put it all together, and I just told Craig, I'll take it. I don't, you know, it'll work out. And
Right.
sure enough, boy, let me tell you though, you tell somebody you spend somebody $800 of their money, it's amazing how
get a
fast.
phone
How
call.
quick?
Yeah.
How quick you get a reaction,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, so we
Right.
go-
Thumbs a flailing.
Oh, it was. And, you know, we go down there, and part of Craig's, you know, gun collection, if you will, was at Rigby Firearms' facility there where we live, just literally 2 minutes from our house. And we go down there, and Craig's there, and we're doing, you know, some
How
of the
long ago was this?
registration.
It was actually when he bought his
Was it-
Kansas property, he was raising some funds. So
8, 7,
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah, 10 years ago about.
And
Rigby was still in the U.S.
yes,
correct.
at that time.
Yeah, they were still in the
Yeah,
U.S.
Jeff Miller had it, I
Yeah,
think.
correct.
Yep.
We walk in, and there's Craig, and there's this big steel plate. I mean, it's a door, right? It's a safe door. It's a bank-sized safe door. And you walk in, and he goes, yeah, look, come on in. So we walk in, and, you know, it's a normal-sized room you put a bed in, and 3 stacked layered tiers, and I'm just like, he's like, that's the one right there. Grabs that one, and you know, you're looking at all these firearms.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Rigby's built, Blauser. I mean, just
Yeah.
incredible firearms. And from that point on, I mean, I've always kept in contact. I shoot an animal, I send him an email. Hey, Craig, look at this bull I shot. And like I said, we occasionally go on hikes and see him, and it's just that's been my connection. And
Yeah, that's
same thing
wonderful.
as a kid, just always, you know, knew the name, like Craig Boddington, like he was.
It rolls off the tongue nicely.
You know, when I told him I was hunting in the Pioneers in Montana, he goes, I shot my first sheep in the Pioneers back in the 70s when you actually could hunt sheep in the Pioneers, which Pioneers are a mountain range in southwestern Montana. They don't have sheep there anymore.
Really?
Right?
Yeah.
And they used to have sheep there. And so it's just incredible that the places he's been and the places I go now, I mean, I can sit and have a conversation with him. He's like, I shot my first cow elk in Dillon, Montana. That's where that's one of the places I elk hunt. So there's so much in common when you sit down with a guy like that, because there's not many nooks and crannies that he hasn't been.
Right. That's
Yeah, I
for
think
sure.
there's maybe 1 or 2 areas of Antarctica he hasn't hunted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's probably on an emperor penguin safari.
we're still waiting to penguin hunt. But
That might be one of the species you need to still collect.
That's right. I'll get a jump on that one.
yeah,
Well, that was funny because actually I moved to the Paso Robles area about 14 years ago when I took the job with the NRA. And when I went down there, literally, it was just a goofy thing. I'm down at my mailbox dropping off some packages, and there's this lady in front of me. And, of course, you know, I kind of look, and she's got this odd box, and I'm thinking, that's strange. And pretty soon, she tells the lady in front at the counter, says, well, what are you shipping? She goes, well, I'm shipping a cape and a set of ibex horns. And, of course, me being the geek that I am, I'm like all of a sudden go from paying attention to nothing to holy crap.
What ibex?
Ibex?
Ibex. Who ships an Ibex?
Yeah.
And pretty soon, I start talking to her, and she introduces herself as Donna. And I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. And then pretty soon, next thing you know, I'm like, she's like, hey, I think at that time it was
She's
her
a star.
boyfriend.
Yeah.
She's like, hey, we should all get together. And then from then on out, it was like we've all been friends, and they used to come to my NRA dinner banquets. Whenever I'd call Craig, I'm like, hey, could you come and just do the Pledge of Allegiance for us and talk about powerful. When he shows up,
Right.
He stands up on stage and total military type of atmosphere around him, and everybody's like, whoa, and so that was kind of my get to know them story, and ever since then I've like I said, I've
talk about a supporting wife is Donna. I mean, she
suits him well.
perfectly.
She does.
I
She
mean,
really does. And she's a
so
sweetheart.
proud of him.
She's just one of the nicest, most
You
genuine
can see when
people.
she looks at him. I noticed it Wednesday night when they were up there, and she just had that look at him like, I can't even express how proud I am of you, but you can just tell that that's there.
Absolutely.
She's wonderful.
And she's a good hunter in her own right.
Yeah, she is. Very accomplished.
actually,
She
and
gets
both
it
of his
done.
daughters are they get it done.
No doubt.
They get it done. There's no doubt about that. So
Yeah, you wear that name, Boddington. There's a bit of a standard that's set there, but I'll tell you what. A mutual friend of Jason and I's took Brittany Marco Polo sheep hunting just this last year in 17, and this guy's very, very extreme backpacker and spends 100 days doing these extreme hunts, and he said Brittany's legit.
Yeah.
Granted, most of us would have a hard time doing that hunt by ourselves, but he's like, she handled it great, and she shot a great sheep, and so there's definitely some genetics there that have worn off into the,
and not only
into the kids.
she's got a hell of a role model.
yes,
there's
absolutely.
no doubt. Yeah,
Absolutely.
So we're here at Dallas Safari. We got all of 2018 ahead of us. I mean, so we know Botswana. That's obviously exciting. But what else do you guys have planned? I mean, obviously Jason and I have plans in 18 for hunts. But what else are you guys doing?
I get to go to
this
Alaska
year?
for the first time.
Okay.
I haven't been, so we're going to do a black bear hunt up in Alaska, which is pretty exciting. Obviously,
God, talk about parallels there, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm doing Kodiak in October. So.
Nice.
First time.
First time.
Yeah.
Like we said, Jay and I are going to go to Botswana in August, and I'm actually coming back down to Jay's in Laredo. Where are we going? Outside of Laredo?
No,
in
we're
December.
actually Uvalde.
Uvalde. Okay.
Uvalde, in December sometime.
So we're going to do a little whitetail rattling. He and I.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Going to be fun. Jay talked into a new rifle here. We're going to turn him onto the 6.5 284.
There you go.
Oh my God! Hello.
He knows a lot about that.
You
caliber.
don't have a 6.5 284.
He actually does. Mine's being shipped to his house as we speak. It's in transit from New York to Texas. Got to preach
He's been
the faith.
talking about it, and I'm like, dude, I want something cool, different.
Oh my
little bit.
God, that's
It's just
You
an
know,
amazing
that doesn't
caliber.
follow, the trend.
you pull the
And
trigger
he
and the
says
gun
that.
goes
Sit under the
bang,
scope.
and then you watch the bullet go.
I call it the 6.5 Creedmoor for men. That'll get you some hate mail.
Yeah.
No, I really like that 6.5 284. And I'd take anything
Phenomenal.
up to moose and elk with it. A good premium bullet. But Jay and I are going to test drive that. I've got some good hand loads for it. So we're going to go down in December and do a little buck rattle and have some fun down there in Uvalde.
Awesome.
So that'll
Jay,
be a
any
lot of fun.
plans this year?
On the books right now, nothing that, things pop up all the time. So I'm in and out of the field and, between ranches, going to ranches, visiting ranches. And there's no telling who I'm going to take out hunting or, I'm just going to go tag along with them on their places,
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
when you lived a lifetime of it, then
Yeah, the
it
opportunities
just kind of
are there.
always happens and you're always in the mix.
Sure. Yeah.
And also with what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. How about other trade shows? Are you guys going to hit up any other shows in the next couple months?
I
or?
won't be at SCI, but I attend the SHOT Show every year because,
Okay.
being a writer, it's all the
Yeah,
new
that's a
products.
big one.
And, you got to say hello to all the people. It's kind of like the Mountain Man Rendezvous. Everybody
Sure.
gets
Mountain-
together. Yeah. You're still alive? Yes, I am. Sitting upright and taking nourishment. So, we'll definitely do the SHOT Show. Might end up in Harrisburg, PA again. Not quite sure, but I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
have to see how that plays out.
I'll be at SCI, definitely.
Yeah.
Dallas Safari Club SCI I'm at every year.
Yeah.
SHOT Show every now and again, but
Right.
that's probably every 6, 7, 8 years that I end up going there.
It's about all my liver can handle. It's 2 good shows.
Yeah. The problem is, like this year, you go SHOT for a week, and then there's like 2 days off, and then SCI hits
SCI,
again,
I
right?
know.
So
Yeah, it's
some of
harsh.
these guys over here are like, man, I got to go spend like 19 days in Vegas. It's like
Yeah.
we live, we can drive there in 5 hours, and we go maybe once a year, right?
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like,
By the end of
I
show
did-
season, everybody's got that same zombified,
Yeah,
worn out look.
yeah.
It's tough being in
Yeah.
a booth all day.
it's a lot. But it's their Super Bowl too, right? I mean, this is the
Right.
time of year where,
This makes it happen.
yeah,
For
they're
sure.
getting people
These
lined up.
couple of months makes everything happen for every outfitter, around.
Yeah.
Not only that, you get to go and see a lot of your friends, and like me, for example, I have friends hunting in countries all over the world, and this is the only place I get to see them
Yeah, because they all congregate
because
right here at
everybody's
this
all
time.
at the same
Yeah.
place. So I get to see my buddies from Pakistan. I get to see Turkey, all over Africa,
Yeah.
South America and Australia. So
Yeah.
it's actually a great place to just to catch up.
That's the beauty of
you
these
know?
shows, especially here at Dallas. You got, like you're saying, you got people from all over the globe.
Yeah.
You catch a beer after the show, and you're hearing accents from all over the world,
Yeah.
10 different languages being spoken.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you got people looking at, who are these maniacs? I don't know,
Yeah.
just keep your fingers away from them.
It is, and you say that, but it's like everyone's really speaking the same language.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Where are
Right.
we hunting and
Yeah.
when are we going?
What are you
Right.
going to do?
Yep.
And it's funny for me. This is the first time at Dallas SCI, and I have to say this to me is so relaxed. But I'm also on vacation because
Right.
when I'm back here with the NRA for convention in May, I'll be 24/7. I won't sleep. I
I'm
won't
blessed.
eat.
You're
I'll be
working hard,
working
yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole time. And just kind of like what you guys said, when you walk onto the floor, and it's like I can't hardly go 10 steps without running into somebody else.
Right.
And it's funny too because you see people you haven't seen in maybe 20 years.
Right.
All of a sudden it's like, whoa, where you been? And they're like, oh, well, I was here every year. Where are you? And I'm like, I was here every year too. It's like,
Yeah.
but you just never crossed paths
Right.
or things just didn't click.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's super awesome to be here, and this environment here at DSC is, in my opinion, is really relaxed. Of course, and we're here on the front half, and we're going to bail out tomorrow morning early. And I'm guessing tomorrow might be an absolute zoo here.
Yeah, they say the weekend
Yeah.
is. I usually come for Thursday, Friday, just because of that. You get more time to speak to everybody.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little more personal, a little more intimate with
Absolutely.
the guides and the outfitters, and you can meet some of these folks versus, we were walking yesterday morning, and, Chris Cox walks by, and I've always, between Chris Cox and Wayne LaPierre, guys that I've really, looked up to, kind of guys like Craig and Self, and I, got to meet Chris. That meant a lot to me to be able
Sure.
to have, a 2-minute engagement with a guy who has so much influence
Right.
over
Absolutely. Right.
firearms, and, and heck, could be on Trump's cabinet if he wanted to, right? But just
Yeah.
a very, very high respect for people like
Sure.
that, and you rub elbows with them at
It's a
these
big
shows.
industry. We were sitting there looking at a rifle this morning, and Larry Potterfield from Midway comes up, and he's
Yep.
just chatting with Larry Potterfield. Only the biggest outdoor gun parts sales guy in the world.
Yeah.
How are you, Larry?
We saw Larry yesterday. Yeah, it's neat.
It is. It's a fun time. Well,
Guys,
guys,
this
thank
has
you,
been
man.
awesome. I always think about when you meet people, it's like, in high school, you have your high school friends, and then in college, you meet kind of what you consider your lifelong friends. But I always think when you meet people that are in hunting and people you can share a campfire with, those are the people that, you just never forget those people, right? And they're guys that that they're going to have your back. And you guys seem like guys that, I could share a campfire with.
Likewise.
And we will.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
would
will.
love to do that sometime, and whether it's Africa, whether it's in Montana, we've got a
we
tie
will.
in Montana. Hell, if it's in California shooting pigs in
Let's
our
do it.
backyard,
I'm
the
down.
offers out there. And
I'm down.
Would love to do that with you guys again, and again, hopefully we'll see you guys in other trade shows, and wish you both luck in your endeavors.
Likewise.
Writing.
Thank you.
And if-
Obviously, what
and
you
if
do is
anybody ever
a niche
has-
market, but
If anybody has a little dinky small house that wants to sell, Jay, how do they get a hold of you?
yes, exactly.
The one with the small house on top of the mountain with the lake down on the bottom and encompasses the whole property.
No,
Yeah, seriously.
Less than 33,000. Well, maybe a little greater than 33,000 square feet.
they can email me at j@hollandhall.com. And,
Okay.
if they have a property they want to sell, Texas, Colorado, Montana, New Mexico, You name it, we can handle it.
Social media? Are you on social media?
Social media, I'm on
Okay.
Instagram as PHJLay, Jayley.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook, can find me at it, and LinkedIn.
Okay.
You know, so I stay pretty connected on social media.
Good.
And Phil, if anybody wants to harass you in regards to your comments that you made in this podcast and how you got to be better on your writing skills, I mean, are you LinkedIn too?
I'm not on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. The Phil Massaro page is there. You can go to philmassaro.com. You'll see a list of books and pictures and other
Which you
hoopla.
said if they buy all 4 copies, it comes with a bottle of scotch?
Something like that, yes.
I can't remember what that was.
One of them little airplane bottles.
Hey, listen, don't be busting it yet, man. Come on.
Got to have them little nips, you know. It's an awesome time. No, hit philmassaro.com, or, there's a bunch of different places. I do a lot of work for the American Hunter, the NRA's American Hunter, Gun Digest, some stuff for Guns and Ammo, Guns America. So you can pop on the internet, just put in Phil Massaro, author, and my name will come up real quick.
Awesome.
But I want to thank the both of you, seriously, for having us on. It was a fantastic time.
Oh,
and I'm glad we got
absolutely.
to share dinner and make new friends.
Amen to
think,
that.
Yeah, that was, to me, that was a highlight of our trip was, obviously being there for Craig, but B, meeting awesome people like you guys.
Absolutely.
And Jason, as always, thank you. And
Peace out.
Peace out. Chunk and deuces.
and Jay and Phil, like I said, good luck, and hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Send us
Better
those.
go after an eland.
Yeah.
I want to see eland pictures.
I want to see the trophy picture with the Eland, man.
Okay. We'll see that, hopefully.
Cheers.
All right, guys, take care.
Take it
Bye-bye.
easy.
Take care.
All right. Hey everyone, this is Lucas Paw, host of the RNA Outdoors podcast. Please check out Podbean and iTunes. If you have an iPhone or iPad, go to the podcast app on your device, search for RNA Outdoors, and hit the purple subscribe button. When doing this, it will automatically upload when new podcasts are loaded, and they will download into your queue. For Android users, you can access the podcast through Podbean, Stitcher, or use our website, www.rnaoutdoors.com/podcast. In addition, under the RNA Outdoors podcast channel, please leave a review and a 5-star rating. These reviews help boost our popularity and outreach. You can also follow us on our social media outlets, Twitter at RNA Outdoors, Facebook, RNA Outdoors, and Instagram, Rod and Arrow Outdoors. All links are in the show notes as well. If you like what you've heard, we hope you'll pass along our channel to your friends and colleagues. Keep up the good fight. We cannot sit by and watch the public lands devoted to wildlife protection wither away. There's simply too much at stake. Make your voice heard, speak up, and get involved with conservation efforts, and know that every little bit helps. As we say on the mountain, go farther, stay longer.